The Buddha often imparted wisdom to his students, reminding them of the immense power words hold. He used to compare the human tongue, which is our tool for speech, to the sharpest blade imaginable. He stressed that the most perilous weapon in existence is not one of physical harm, but the words we speak. Although words don't cause physical injury, they can deeply wound others emotionally. Words can either be a source of immense strength or a vulnerability, depending on how, where, and when they are used. If we don't recognize the importance of timing, tone, and the impact of our words, we risk creating difficulties in our lives. On the contrary, when we speak with wisdom and kindness, especially at the appropriate moments, it can open doors to success and harmony. Conversely, if we are unkind or speak at inopportune times, life can become more challenging. Today, I'd like to share with you a story that demonstrates the incredible importance of knowing when to stay silent and how silence can profoundly transform your life. This story will help illustrate the quiet strength that silence possesses. Are you ready to embark on this journey of understanding? But before we continue, don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel and hit the bell icon for more insightful stories like this one. Once upon a time, in ancient India, there lived a renowned Buddhist monk, far removed from the chaos of the outside world, deep within a serene forest. His life was one of meditation and contemplation, and despite his solitary existence, his fame spread throughout the land. One day, a king, overwhelmed by the pressures of his royal duties, sought out the monk. "Respected monk," the king began, "I find myself constantly tired, frustrated, and unhappy. My mind is forever restless, even though I possess wealth, power, and all the luxuries one could desire. Yet, despite all these, I cannot find inner peace. Please show me the way to still my mind." The monk, in his calm and knowing manner, replied, "You already possess the answer within yourself, but you have never allowed yourself to discover it. If you are willing, I propose an experiment, one that will bring you lasting peace. Would you care to try?" The king, although somewhat skeptical, was intrigued and asked the monk what the experiment entailed. The monk smiled and explained, "Your Majesty, the experiment is simple. For the next 7 days, refrain from speaking a single word. Maintain complete silence, not just outwardly, but inwardly as well. Observe your thoughts, your emotions, and your reactions, but do not express them in words. After these 7 days, we will meet again and discuss what you have learned." Apprehensive yet curious, the king agreed and returned to his palace to begin this unusual experiment. At first, the silence was unbearable. He was so used to the constant chatter, the endless responsibilities and discussions. His mind, untamed, raced with thoughts and worries. Yet, as the days passed, something remarkable began to happen. Without the distractions of speech, the king started to tune into his inner world. He noticed the subtle thoughts that danced in his mind and the deep-seated emotions that he had previously ignored. The restlessness that had plagued him for so long began to unravel, and in its place, a calm clarity emerged. By the end of the 7 days, the king had found a profound peace that he had never experienced before. When the 7 days were up, the king returned to the monk. His demeanor had shifted. There was a serene smile on his face, and his heart felt light. "Respected monk," he said with deep gratitude, "I have found the peace I sought. Thank you for showing me the power of silence." The monk nodded and said, "You have discovered the secret for yourself. True peace does not exist in the world outside. It resides within your own heart and mind." From that day onward, the king embraced the practice of silence. Each day, he would set aside time for contemplation, retreating from the noise of the court to find solace in his inner sanctuary. In that stillness, he found a treasure far more valuable than his wealth or status, the enduring peace that comes from self-awareness. The king, now enlightened by his experience, resolved to spend 15 more days with the monk to further explore this newfound state of tranquility. The monk welcomed him, advising him to continue with the practice of silence, this time for a full 2 weeks. Over the next few days, the king's mind initially rebelled. He felt restless, uneasy, and his thoughts ran wild. But he resisted the urge to speak and allowed himself to sit in stillness, absorbing the quietude of the monastery. As the days progressed, his mind began to calm. He observed the beauty of the natural world around him, Flowers, trees, birds soaring in the sky, and for the first time he felt a deep connection to the world. The noise of his thoughts faded, and by the 12th day the king found himself sinking into a profound state of meditation. His mind, once filled with worry and distraction, now rested in a peaceful, silent place. On the final day of his retreat, the king approached the monk with newfound insight. "I now understand why I was so troubled," he said thoughtfully. "I used to speak too much, constantly worrying about what others thought. This caused me to waste my energy, and my mind became consumed with negativity." The monk, ever wise, listened as the king continued. "I realize now that my excessive talking and negative thoughts were at the root of my unhappiness. It made me inefficient, and I began to fail at my responsibilities, which only worsened my frustrations." The king paused, reflecting on his recent experiences. "But these past 15 days have been a revelation. In the silence, I peeled away the layers of distraction and discovered a deeper truth. I now understand that the peace I sought could only be found by looking inward, not through external pursuits." The monk, with a gentle smile, replied, "Indeed, Your Majesty, silence is not merely the absence of words. It is a gateway to profound self-discovery. It allows us to see the world and ourselves with clarity." The king continued to practice silence even after returning to his royal duties. He realized that meditation didn't have to be a forced exercise, but a natural state of being when one is fully present in the moment. He embraced this understanding, transforming the way he lived his life. He reflected on the monk's teachings and Buddha's wisdom, realizing that many people, like him, struggle with the need to constantly speak, not understanding the harm it can cause. The misuse of language, he learned, can lead to conflict and suffering, both in ancient times and in the modern world. In his newfound wisdom, the king shared his story with others, teaching them the importance of silence and introspection. He believed that if more people embraced the power of silence, the world would be a more peaceful place. As the king had discovered, silence is not just about not speaking. It is about deepening our understanding of ourselves and the world around us. It's in moments of quiet contemplation that we can unravel the mysteries of life and find solutions to our inner struggles. In silence, there is power. Buddha often reminded his followers that the power of words could shape lives, both our own and others. He would tell them that the words we speak hold the potential to uplift or destroy. Our speech is likened to a sharp blade, capable of cutting deeply into the emotional well-being of others if we are not mindful. The tongue, he said, is sharper than the sharpest weapon known to man, and though it leaves no visible scars, it has the power to inflict wounds that cut far deeper than any sword ever could. Even though words cannot physically harm a person, they can create emotional wounds, sometimes so deep that they take a lifetime to heal. Buddha explained that words, though intangible, hold immense power. They can serve as a source of strength, inspiring and encouraging those around us, or they can be a source of weakness, causing harm to others and damaging relationships. It is crucial to know when to speak, how much to speak, and most importantly, what to say. When we speak kindly, wisely, and at the appropriate times, words can lead to great success. However, if we speak out of turn, with harshness or carelessness, our lives can become entangled in difficulties and strife. This brings us to the invaluable lesson of silence and the strength that lies within it. In today's story, I will share an inspiring tale that demonstrates how silence can transform your life in ways you might never have imagined. Silence is not just the absence of words, it is a powerful force, one that allows us to turn inward and find clarity, peace, and understanding. Before we dive into the story, I invite you to subscribe to my channel and ring the notification bell so that you can stay updated with more insightful stories like this one. Now let's begin. Once upon a time, deep within the heart of India, there lived a renowned Buddhist monk, known for his profound wisdom and meditative practice. This monk had chosen to reside far from the chaotic world, living in solitude in the dense, tranquil forests. The peace of the forest was mirrored in the monk's own serene demeanor. His fame as a wise man spread throughout the country, drawing people from all walks of life, seeking his guidance and teachings. One day, a powerful and wealthy king, troubled by his restless mind, sought out the monk. Despite having everything a man could desire, wealth, power, and luxury, the king felt an immense void within him. His mind was constantly in turmoil, and he could find no peace. Upon meeting the monk, the king confessed his struggles, saying, "Respected monk, despite all that I possess, I feel perpetually exhausted, frustrated, and unhappy. My mind is never still, never at peace. It's as though I am a prisoner of my own thoughts. Please help me quiet my mind." The monk gazed at the king with compassion and replied, "Your Majesty, the answer you seek lies within you. You hold the key to your own peace, but you have not yet discovered it. I propose an experiment, one that, if you agree to undertake, will reveal the inner peace you so deeply desire." The king, intrigued but slightly skeptical, asked the monk what the experiment entailed. The monk's response was simple but profound. "For the next 7 days, do not speak a single word. Embrace absolute silence, not only outwardly but inwardly as well. Spend time observing your thoughts and emotions without expressing them through speech. After 7 days, return to me, and we will discuss your experiences." The king, though initially hesitant, agreed to the monk's request. He returned to his palace and began his 7-day vow of silence. At first, the king found it incredibly difficult to quiet his mind, which had been accustomed to constant chatter and the distractions of royal duties. His thoughts raced, and his emotions felt overwhelming without the outlet of words to express them. However, as each day passed, the king started to notice subtle changes within himself. Without the noise of speech, he became attuned to the intricacies of his inner world. He began to see patterns in his thoughts, identifying the root causes of his restlessness and discontent. On the 7th day, the king returned to the monk, his demeanor transformed. The weight of his former burdens had lifted, replaced by a newfound serenity. With a peaceful smile, the king expressed his gratitude to the monk. "I have found the peace I was seeking," the king said. "The silence allowed me to reflect deeply on my thoughts and feelings. I now understand that the restlessness I felt came from within, not from the external world. Thank you for guiding me toward this revelation." The monk smiled warmly and said, "Your Majesty, you have now glimpsed the immense power of silence. True peace does not come from the outside world. It resides within your heart and mind. By quieting the noise around you and turning inward, you have found the answers you were searching for." From that moment onward, the king made silence a regular practice in his life. Every day, he set aside time for reflection and meditation. In those moments of stillness, he discovered a peace far greater than any riches or power could provide. His life became more balanced, and his decisions more thoughtful. In the silence, the king found the treasure that had eluded him all his life, the treasure of inner peace. Impressed by the profound change within himself, the king asked the monk for further guidance. "Respected monk," he said, "I am ready to do anything to maintain this peace of mind. Please continue to show me the way." The monk, his voice as calm as ever, responded, "Your Majesty, if you are truly committed to deepening your understanding, stay with me at the monastery for 15 more days. During this time, live like an ordinary person. Embrace simplicity, sit alone in silence, and speak as little as possible." The king, eager to continue his journey of self-discovery, agreed without hesitation. His first day in the monastery was more challenging than he had anticipated. Used to the luxuries of palace life and the constant stimulation of courtly duties, the king found it difficult to adjust to the simplicity and solitude of monastic life. His mind was more restless than ever, bombarded by a barrage of thoughts, questions, and doubts. He yearned to speak, to voice his discomfort, but he resisted, remaining in silence as the monk had instructed. As the days passed, the king noticed a gradual change. His mind, once chaotic, began to calm. He found solace in the simplicity of his surroundings, observing nature with a sense of wonder he hadn't experienced before. The flowers, the birds, the trees, they all seemed to communicate a silent wisdom, one that could only be understood in the quiet of his own heart. By the 10th day, the king's inner restlessness had all but disappeared. He felt a profound sense of peace and contentment, unlike anything he had ever known. On the 12th day, the king entered into a deep state of meditation. His eyes closed naturally, and he found himself slipping effortlessly into stillness. In that moment, the king's mind was entirely free of worry. He he experienced a sense of profound inner peace that he had never imagined possible. When the 15 days had passed, the king approached the monk once more. "Respected monk," he said, "I have discovered why my mind was so troubled before. I used to speak far too much, and I spent so much energy on trivial matters. I would often think negatively about others, and my constant talking only added to my distress. This behavior not only wasted my time, but also disrupted my mind, preventing me from focusing on what truly mattered. As a result, I found myself failing in many aspects of life, which only made me more unhappy and irritable." The monk listened intently as the king continued. "But during these 15 days of silence, I experienced a profound transformation. I realized that my words were not just expressions of my thoughts. They were draining my energy and clouding my mind. By remaining silent, I was able to focus my energy inward, and in doing so, I found clarity and peace." The king paused for a moment, reflecting on the insights he had gained. "I now understand that true peace and happiness come from within," he said. "It is not something we can find in the external world, no matter how much wealth or power we possess. It is only when we turn inward and embrace silence that we can discover the truth of who we are." The monk smiled and nodded, pleased with the king's revelation. "You have learned a valuable lesson," he said. "Silence is not just about refraining from speech. It is about creating space for self-awareness and inner peace. When we silence the external noise, we can hear the voice of our true self, the voice that guides us toward wisdom and understanding." The king, filled with gratitude, replied, "From now on, I will make silence a regular practice in my life. I will speak less and listen more. I will cultivate moments of quiet reflection and use my words wisely, with compassion and thoughtfulness." As the king left the monastery, he felt a sense of freedom and lightness he had never known before. The weight of his former restlessness had lifted, and in its place was a deep sense of contentment and inner peace. The king's story is a reminder to us all that silence is not something to be feared or avoided. It is a powerful tool for self-discovery and personal growth. In a world filled with constant noise and distraction, taking the time to be silent, to reflect, and to listen to our inner voice can lead to profound transformation. So, my dear friends, I encourage you to embrace the practice of silence in your own lives. Take a few moments each day to step away from the noise, to quiet your mind, and to reflect on your thoughts and emotions. In the stillness, you may discover a deeper understanding of yourself and the world around you. Remember, silence is not just the absence of sound, it is the presence of peace.